Dream big and dare to fail.
Believe you can, and you're halfway there.
Turn your wounds into wisdom.
Journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step.
You never fail until you stop trying.
The only impossible journey is the one you never begin.
Nothing is impossible. The word itself says, I'm possible.
Have enough courage to start and enough heart to finish.
Try again. Fail again. Fail better.
In the middle of every difficulty lies opportunity.
No great thing is created suddenly.
Life isn't about finding yourself. Life is about creating yourself.
Giving up is not an option.
Welcome to episode 2 of Failure Isn't Fatal, a Fall and Rise podcast. I'm your host, Matthew Loudenberg, and joining me today is a good friend of mine, Forrest. Bagacina, is that how you say your last name?
Correct, Matt.
Thanks for joining us, Forrest. How you doing?
I'm doing good, Matt. How are you?
Good. Happy to have you here.
Yeah, happy to be here, Matt, as always.
Good. So let's jump right into it. So Forrest has autism. So why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit more about autism, Forrest? Like, what exactly is autism?
Okay, glad to talk to you about that, Matt. So basically, autism, to me, is a neurodevelopmental disorder that affects the brain. No one knows what causes it. There's links to genetics, like bipolar disorder and all that, but it basically just inhibits social functions. So, like for example, I can't do eye contact really well like most people do. Like most people can do it naturally, whereas I have to really focus like I'm doing now. I have to train my brain to do that. And other things is like speech development patterns have been an issue for me. Understanding sarcasm has been an issue for me. All that stuff I've overcome at this age, but still there's some quirks that that are like just very like I just don't understand until like someone like deeply explains it to me or says like, oh, it's and then like some people are like just don't they're hard to understand, but then they tell me and I'm like, okay. So that's what autism is to me.
Okay. So autism is something you were born with?
Yes. So I was diagnosed when I was 8, and it just it basically came about I was going to up until 3rd grade, I had no idea what it was. I didn't know what I was doing wrong. I was just acting out, and my parents, or more specifically my mom, noticed I was acting out and doing all these quirks, and she was confused about what was wrong. And so for me, she took me to in elementary school, they just thought I had high functioning ADHD. I just couldn't concentrate. It was all just really high functioning. So up until 3rd grade, when I went to see what they call a pediatrician, that's when the pediatrician labeled me as autistic. And she said, no, he doesn't have ADHD. He doesn't have ADD. He just has straight autism. And to this day, I've lived with it my entire life and just, I would say, outgrown it.
Okay. So you said you were about 8 years old when you were first diagnosed with it.
Correct.
When you were diagnosed with it, did you understand what it was, or was it years later? When did you fully understand kind of what was going on?
Good question, Matt. But it wasn't until probably around high school, probably senior year of high school, that I really understood what the autism was. And I just, I tried my best to make friends and just act normal, but really people were just labeling me as odd. But it wasn't I didn't really understand it until I sat down with a pediatrician and my mom, who used to go with me to all these doctor's appointments, and say, okay, you're gonna have to deal with this your entire life, but you're you're less autistic than what most people are. Like even I'm what they label as high functioning, but even more high functioning than most autistic people who are high functioning. So that's what causes me to be like just more normal than most. But but to answer your question though, I would say like senior year.
Okay. So, was it hard for you going through it and making friends? You mentioned that you were trying to actively make friends. So was that difficult for you in like middle school and high school to make friends, as opposed to like right now? Is it easier for you to make friends now than it was then, or was it easier then?
Oh, okay. So it was easier for me now, but like I would say like middle school, like I just didn't know the process of like how to make friends. I didn't know like what the social cues were and all that. Like I didn't like, for example, like if you wanted to like hang out with someone, you like maybe text them or ask for their number and like just go hang out with them. But for me, that was a hard aspect that I never really understood until like my college years. And so like just being able to hang out with people was kind of nerve-wracking for me. But however, like I've always like overcame that adversity, and now I have like I have like your wife obviously, and I have a bunch of people who I can call upon to like hang out with and make friends with. But if we're going back to my high school years, it was a struggle. Okay. It was hard to just ask people like to hang out with because I was acting out. I was not like, I had too much energy for someone of my age and neurotypical, they would say. But there were still a couple of people who helped me. Like I'm saying, like growing up, I had one friend in high school, and he's still a friend of mine to this day. But he helped me deal with it, and he helped me understand how to make friends and all that, and I look to him to advice ever since.
Well, that's good. I'm glad you had someone. And when Tara and I are happy to be in your life.
Yeah,
and,
true. And I'm happy to
love
be
spending time with you.
Yeah, as much as I love this podcast too.
Thanks.
Welcome.
So, just for some further clarification on autism and what being autistic means, it's mainly a understanding of social context and stuff, not as much as a brain function, because obviously, like you said, you went to college.
Yeah.
And so it has nothing to do with your capability of being smart or anything like that, right? It's just social cues.
Yeah. So if you actually look, there are some people you can see it probably on TV now. There's some actors that portray people with autism, but if you actually delve deep into history, you can actually look up like famous people with autism, and some of these people that in history were diagnosed with it, or well, actually they weren't diagnosed because it wasn't the thing, but there were some cues that they missed that literally people thought they were autistic. So like Albert Einstein, Thomas Jefferson, George Washington, all three of these people that they weren't able to be diagnosed, but they had some of the cues that that labeled them as autistic nowadays. So like I would say like people with autism usually are pretty smart.
I would agree.
But they just don't get social cues. It just inhibits the social function, I would say.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah.
Just wanted to clarify that for everyone listening. I mean, because we have people like Elon Musk recently admitted that he was autistic.
Yeah. And
he's arguably one of the greatest minds we have right now.
Yeah, true. And I believe there's one person it's controversy right now, but there's one person I know, the creator of Pokemon. I don't remember his exact name, but I know he was diagnosed with autism.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. And so, basically it's controversy because people say he does have it, but then there's other things, but he labels himself as like not having it. So we don't know for sure if he has or not. He hasn't really said it, but there's also like famous actors who I've known had it. some of them I've seen on TV. There's a famous like writer / actor named Temple Grandin who's well known in the autism world, who's influential in it, and really, if you guys want to do more research on her, she really explains what autism is and how it affects her life.
Oh, that sounds like a good person to check out.
Yeah. Yeah. You can
So,
on the web.
Like we talked about before, you went to college.
Yeah.
You have a driver's license.
Yeah.
Do some people with autism not get to experience those things? They don't go to college, or they can't drive, or is that inhibit people in any way from doing those kinds of things?
I wouldn't say it inhibits. It's basically like they have harder times adjusting to it, but at the same time, if you put them through the right programs and you give them the right energy and all that, they can actually do it. You teach them well and all that. Like for me personally, I had the backup of my mom, and also I went through a special program called Master Drive, Matt, which is basically I would say it's more like helpful for people with autism to learn how to drive because it more teaches them the hands-on experience, and more they understand that as well. But I would say like people with autism, they can go to college, they can be successful in their lives, they don't necessarily have to be smart, but they literally can just go about their normal days and exhibit like autism and all that, and just cope with it and just naturally prepare for their day-to-days. There's people like me that are so high functioning that some people don't even notice.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
So is there any kind of medication that they give you, or is it just kind of more teaching you how to learn how to understand things, or is it more of like a teaching thing and not really a medication?
Glad you asked that, Matt. So for me, I was put on medication. I remember I started out with a medication they called Concerta that really helped me focus throughout elementary school to high school. But then after that, I outgrew it in college, and so they took me off of that, put me on Focalin, I think. But they put me on all sorts of medications and all that, and took me off some. And right now, I still take medication to this day to help with just anxiety and depression and all that. And I usually just take low dosages of it. Sorry about that.
No worries.
And so it just helps me cope with my day. But it just depends on who the person is. If someone more lower functioning than I am has to take medication, then they can. But there's some parents who don't believe they should put their kids on medication, and they turn out just fine.
Yeah.
So
okay.
I would say it is a medication thing, but it also can be a teaching thing as well.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And then you mentioned medication for like anxiety and depression, and those are medications that somebody without autism would take. So those are not really exclusive,
Yes.
Those are just fine.
Yeah, correct. So the medication I take, like I've heard of it been taken by neurotypical people, or neurotypical I mean normal people, I would say.
So neurotypical, that's the term for
people without autism.
People without autism.
Yeah.
Neurotypical.
Yeah,
okay.
neurotypical.
You learn something new today.
Yeah, true. So these people I've heard of like take these type of medication, and they have different effects.
Yep.
I know one of my good friends, she takes one of the medications, same medications that I do, and it drastically helps her with her day. And then there are some people who I've noticed that like I don't really go through the private stuff because I've learned in the past like don't go through people's privacy. But obviously,
was that something hard for you to learn?
Well, it was a little bit, but then like once like someone enforced it in my brain, I'm like, okay, don't go through people's privacy. But like if I just glanced at it and I saw like if someone like just had it out in the open and I just literally saw it, I'll be like, oh, I know that medication. I take that every day. So or I take that in the past. Like it helps. So
okay. So, growing up, or even now, are there people who make fun of you or And if they do, how does that affect you?
Growing up, it people did make fun of me. Like, they didn't understand the whole autism thing, and I tried my best to explain it, but I'm not the best at explaining things. I feel like the autism really inhibits that.
Right.
But then there are some people who like what we're doing now, and like you, who just pushed me, pushed me to be a better person, pushed me to be a better human being overall. They've really helped me in my past to experience this beautiful thing called life, and we just there's some people in the past who have made fun of me, and I've learned to just accept it, because I've learned that they were just joking, but sometimes it hurt because I didn't understand it, why they were making fun of me. But then there's some people who are supportive and told me, hey, he doesn't understand this, you need to back off. It's sometimes to this day, I have people that are close, that are I want to be friends with, but then I talk to them and they just are just not friendly, and not not really my type of person to talk with, and I just back away. But then someone just keeps approaching me just because they want to talk, but they came off really strong, and usually I have my friends to back me up, hey, this person doesn't want to talk to you, you're hurting him, and they basically help me just deal with it. So doesn't mean there's some people in my past that I used to be friends with that I'm just occasionally not friends with now, but it's just with the autism, it was a little challenging, but not, I wouldn't say too much, considering I'm more high functioning than most.
Yeah. So now it's kind of easier for you, or in your adult life, do you get less people making fun of you than in your childhood? Because I imagine that children would be a lot more aggressive about it, not understanding it. Are adults more understanding generally? Yeah,
I would say adults are more understanding. I mean, by now, people our age, they've heard of what autism is, and even if they didn't, someone briefly explained it to them, and then there are some people who just embrace the character. They just accept someone to be different. We're living in an age where it's now normal to be different. Yeah. And so and even the shirt that I'm wearing, I bought it because I love being different. I accept the autism for who I am. Some people don't really understand it. I tried to explain it, and but I always have friends to back me up and just help me persevere through this. In fact, there was one quote my mom told me when I was little that I stick by to this day. You never let the autism win. You never literally go back to being antisocial. You always live life to the fullest, be the most positive person you can be, and just enjoy life.
So for everyone listening real quick, how old are you?
So I'm 27 years old. Yeah.
I forgot that they don't know how old you are.
That's fine, man. No worries.
So you touched on the shirt. Does the shirt, I've seen you wear the shirt quite often. Does the shirt help when you're out in public to kind of let people know that you have autism? Or do people just think you're wearing that shirt and you don't have autism?
Well, I feel like people they come up to me and literally see that I'm wearing the shirt and think, oh, that's so cool. Cool, this guy has autism. I have someone in my class, or I know someone relatively close to me that has autism. One of my best friends, I met her through the shirt. And actually, funny story is I met Matt through her. So, but yeah, this shirt really points out that I have autism, and it really is a beneficial thing. It's one of my favorite shirts I wear. I try not to wear it too often, because people usually say, oh, you wear that shirt too much.
You wear it pretty often.
Yeah, I do. And I'm sorry.
It's a good shirt.
It's a good shirt, but
for those of you who are not watching this, by the way, you can watch this on our YouTube channel at Fall and Rise. For those of you just listening, he's wearing an autism shirt that's written in the style of the show Friends, and it says, the one where it's okay to be different.
Yeah, true. And that's literally how I live life. It's okay, like, right, to this day and age, it's okay to be different. You can be who you want to be. If people don't accept you for who you are, you really don't need those kind of people that are negative in your life. Like, you can choose to move forward, or you can choose to resolve your differences. It's up to you.
It's good advice.
It's good advice.
So, lost my train of thought.
Go ahead.
So, what are you doing now in your life as far as autism? I know you're involved a lot with autism awareness. Is there a charity, a program, or anything like that you recommend for people who are interested in learning more about autism?
So I would suggest, like, if, like, I used to be in the past where I was involved in, like, autism events where I would go meet these people who were like me. And this was probably when I first got out of college. I met people with autism, and we just did, like, fun things together. Like, we went and hung out and went to the beach, or we went hiking. We did athletic events. But I also was involved in, like, I would say, like, I was involved in one gala. I would say that it was called, like, the Hope Gala, which was, like, a charity event, I would say. But basically, like, my pediatrician reached out to me, asked me to do a video. I did a video for it, and and they showed it at this gala that had, like, a bunch of like rich people that were hosted at Pelican Hill in, I would say, Newport Beach, and they showed the video. They even had for those of you that probably know this, one who watched The Voice or something like that, one of the winners of it had autism and also had, like, other disorders. But he was at the gala, and he spoke and sung a song, and it was
like
great.
A fun event.
Yeah, it was a fun event. It was fun to just learn more about autism, learn more about how the research has come along, how the research, like, because to this day we don't know what causes it. I don't know if we ever will, like, in our lifetimes, but this event, like, just showed the research of, like, what they have accomplished so far.
Well, sounds good.
Yeah.
Do you happen to know the statistics on how many children are going to be born with autism? Like, 1 in 100, or how often does it occur?
Okay, that's a really good question, Matt. So basically, the statistic is really high right now. Like, usually it's like, I would say it's 1 in 100. Like, there's people, there's a lot of people each day born with autism, more now than they were in the past, and it just shows, like how much it involves, like, genetics and all that. Like I did specify before, it did there were some functions, like, that cross paths with bipolar disorder. There were some links to I would say, that's bipolar. I'm trying to think what other ones there are, but I'm drawing a blank right now. But yeah, no, it's mostly related to, like, gene therapy and all that. Like, it's like, if someone in your family has it, then you're more likely to have it. And actually, studies have shown that men are more likely to develop it than women are.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So with it being more frequent now than it was in the past, I guess it's something that more people are going to be coming into contact with, in their average life. Whereas before, you may know one person who is autistic, or maybe you had a friend of a friend who was autistic that you didn't really know that well. But nowadays, it's becoming more common, and there's more people that are autistic. So you're gonna, like I said, you're gonna come more in contact with these people. So do you have any advice for people, like if they are out somewhere and they come across someone who has autism, maybe advice on how to approach them or how to better deal with them to make them feel more comfortable in the situation?
Yeah, I would suggest like basically just approach them with like a kind heart and just invite them to hang out or invite them to do stuff together. Like I know teachers do really well at this, who have to deal with autism in their classes and all that. But if you just go about and see a kid acting odd, my suggestion is talk to them and like say hi, say how's your day, like just engage in casual conversation. Like don't freak out if like this person is just like acting odd and all that in your social life. Like who knows, you might have just made a new friend or might have made their day because they were able to talk to someone that is new in their life, that someone approached them, or just talk. Like most people know, parents have told us when we were kids never talk to strangers, but at the same time our friends were strangers once. So so if you just talk to this kid and you invite them to just hang out and like have casual conversation, like just a bite to eat, or just talk. You don't have to talk to them about the autism. Just do like, how's your day? Anything new happen? What are you doing for the weekend? Like, just all that. Just be yourself.
Is there a proper way to ask someone if they have autism, that in a way that hopefully won't offend them? Or, I mean, especially on the chance that they're not autistic, like, do you have any suggestions on if someone wanted to confirm or make sure?
Yeah. So that's actually a really good question, Matt. And to be honest, it depends on the person. Some people might be more open to like explaining the disorder like I am, whereas others might find it like they're lower functioning. They might find it very embarrassing that they have to explain it and they don't know how to.
Right.
So a proper way to like ask is like basically just make a friend with them, and then the more time you hang out with them and all that, then like once you get to know them and understand them, then just try speaking to them about like, hey, do you have this? I've noticed these quirks, and I'm just curious. If they explain, they say yes and they want to explain it, let them explain it. If they say no and they don't want to explain it, leave it be.
Right. You don't want to push.
Yeah, you don't want to push them. I've learned that like the hard way, where I did push someone and it didn't go well. But at the same time, like the more we hung out and all that, the more I understood like, okay, now we're reaching the similar path and all that. So it's I would say just be cool with the person.
Okay. And you mentioned certain quirks that people with autism have, and going back to like you had mentioned eye contact.
Yeah.
And like you said, you worked on yours. So your eye contact is a lot better.
Yeah.
Once again, you're a higher functioning than
true. Most.
what I think people would expect from someone with autism. But that's a good sign that people can look for. You know, if someone doesn't really want to make eye contact with you, it's a pretty good sign that they might be autistic.
Yeah. I would say it is a pretty good sign, Matt, but at the same time, you really can't tell. Right. You have to look for other quirks, like maybe social cues, like if they don't understand, like I said, if they don't understand sarcasm, then probably that's a quirk, but really, like, it just depends on, like if they want to tell you about it or not. Like, some people will be adamant and say, like, no, I don't have it and all that, and really they might have it. But others, just don't, or others are just more open and say like, oh, I do have it and I'm trying to, get accustomed to it. Cause, the more you the more as you grow older, you learn like other social cues and all that. And with the help of friends, they can teach, well, friends and family, they can teach you what's the right way to act, what's not the right way to act. It's just how life works. But like to this day, I can't, even being 27 years old and living with this and accepting it, there's still some cues that I can't do. Like the eye contact, I just have to accept that I'm not going to be perfect at it.
Right.
Like I just accept that, and I accept that I'm just going. There's just no way unless I really focus that I can understand like how to really. I wouldn't say impress someone, but like just talk to someone normally.
I think you're doing a pretty good job right now.
Well, I'm trying to focus too. But then like, so even with that, there's some people who I feel like they're initially interested in me, but then at the same time I don't do eye contact and then they're just turned off by it. And I'm like, well, I can't really wear this shirt all the time and say right. I blatantly say it. Like I can't just go, I don't, and it's weird kind of like just going up to someone like say, hey, I have autism. Like you can't really just start out with
like
that.
An icebreaker.
Yeah, it's good icebreaker. But at the same time, like if there's some social cues that some people will fortunately have to live with and they will struggle with, but it's just, as long as you keep pushing and keep being yourself and you have others that can help you, you're doing a great job.
Awesome. Thanks for the encouraging words.
Thanks, Matt.
So, moving forward in your life,
yep.
Do you want to be involved in like autism awareness stuff, or is it kind of something you're more trying to distance away from and just kind of live your life?
So actually, I really would like to be more involved in some autism awareness. It's just there's some like programs that I want to be involved with and all that, and like some charities I could be involved with going forward that I would love to like participate in. Maybe if you find us to raise awareness for that. Like, and the funny thing is, every April is called Autism Awareness Month. Right. It's just designated as that month for people to spread awareness about it. And some of my friends who are autistic, including myself, we post about it on social media and we talk about it. We say like, hey, this is my month. How have I lived with this? What have I accomplished so far? Just in one small post. And we just to encourage awareness towards people with autism, because some people might not get it. And some people might, like Matt, you said, some people might be bullied when they're kids and they might not understand, but just to spread awareness, it's all just for helping kids with autism, because people like around the world are struggling with this, and they get labeled as like troublemakers and all that, and it's really, they're really not acting out, they're just autistic. It's just how they were born.
Right.
No one knows the cause of it, but like
So awareness, you would say, then is probably the most important thing that we can do to help those with autism, aside from funding research into the causes of it and how to better the lives of people with it. But I would agree. I would say awareness is super important, and especially like we had talked about, with it being more common now, to just educate people on what it is, how it affects people, and even more importantly, I would say, as how to deal with those people like we just talked about when you encounter them, and how to ease into things and not make them feel uncomfortable. Because some people might, hey, why aren't you looking at me? And that's the wrong thing to do when you approach someone like that. So I think raising awareness for that is super important.
Yeah. So it's it's all about that. Like, who knows? Maybe like in the future we might find something, but like even if we did, like it's really not something that I would suggest is curable, and I wouldn't be favorable for it either. I would suggest just live with it, because I feel like the best way to just handle autism is just accept the person for who they are, because someday they might understand social cues like I do, and then they just might outgrow it, and then, or they still have it, but they just don't exhibit it. And who knows, these people grow up to be successful people. Like I know one actor who just popped in my head just now, didn't know he had autism until he was probably in the 70s, and that's Anthony Daniels, who was famous for like Transformers, other shows. He was a famous comedian as well, but he vocalized that he was diagnosed with it when he was 70. And then even one of my long lost uncles, he reached out to my mom and said he was autistic, and this guy's like 40 years old. So there's no certain time frame of like when someone's diagnosed and when someone knows, and when to spread awareness. Just spread awareness when you can.
So people can live almost their entire life and not even know that they have it. Yeah,
they can. Like it just depends on if you want to go see a trained doctor. It takes a doctor's a trained physician to actually diagnose it. Like some teachers probably can like advise like maybe they have it, but in order to diagnose it takes a fully trained specialist in autism awareness to diagnose someone with autism.
And so that even more an important reason to spread awareness, to help recognize those cues so people can get diagnosed earlier.
Yes. I feel like the earlier you're diagnosed, the more you can take advantage of like some of these programs and to be to be more neurotypical the rest of your life. Like even if you don't feel like you fit in right now, chances are with the right help and the right push, you can fit in later in the future. Like if it wasn't for the help of my pediatrician and my family and my friends when I was growing up, I wouldn't be the guy I am today.
Yeah, well, it's very important to have a good support system.
Sure.
You know, a lot of people think that they're in this alone and they have to do everything on their own. And I think it's really important to encourage people to reach out to their support systems, and that we're all in this together.
Yeah, correct, Matt. Like we can't ignore this. This just happens to be in our lives, and I don't feel like it will ever go away anytime, or there's literally no. I don't think like I said, it won't just like disappear. It's just something someone like me has to deal with, and maybe someday my future generations might have to deal with. Like it's just a life thing.
So you had mentioned earlier that it's genetic.
Yeah.
And that if someone in your family has it, then it could be passed on.
Yeah.
So is it likely then that if you have children, that your children will be autistic?
I see that, and I feel like it's a high possibility. So if I was to have like a son, then he would have a higher chance than my daughter. But yeah, because men have a higher thing. And the reason why is because it affects I would say the X chromosome in both. And then if you want, in order for the woman to have it, they have to have it affected by both, whereas the man just needs it affected by one. So that's why sorry to get like really disturbing right there.
No.
But
it's good to know.
Yeah, it's good to know. But but at the same time, like even if I did have a kid with autism, I would support him no matter what.
Of course, yeah.
Like I wouldn't push him to be an outcast. I wouldn't like disown him. I would support that person no matter what. I mean, truly, he's gonna have a harder time like with school, and there's gonna be probably some programs I have to put him through just to like help him out, because he or she won't understand. But at the same time, just having that full support system will help him become a better person.
Right. And I think it'd be, they would definitely be set up well with you having autism as well, that you can help guide them, and you know exactly what to look for and how to help them and coach them through their difficulties. Definitely.
Yeah, because if like I know like I had a great support system in the past, but really I didn't have anyone who fully had autism to actually explain it to me. So like for me to like have a person in my genetics to just actually have this disorder in the future, then I'd be like, okay, I actually have this, so this is what I did, and here's my advice.
First-hand experience.
Yeah, first-hand experience. Like,
that brings me to another question. Do you think it's easier for someone with autism to explain something to somebody else with autism as far as helping them understand anything? Like if they're not understanding sarcasm, do you think that you as a person with autism could explain it to them better than I could as a person who doesn't have autism?
That's a good question, Matt. And to be honest, I have experienced that in the past where I've tried explaining it to someone with autism. Like I tried explaining like some social cues that they did because my friends told me to like approach them and explain it. Like it was hard for me to explain because I have trouble explaining things entirely.
Okay.
So he didn't really get it, but eventually, like with my help and my friend's help, he did eventually get what he did wrong.
Okay.
And so
it probably would have been better for someone else then to try and explain it to him.
Well, I would say that, but also like it doesn't mean they can't ask me for advice.
Right. Kind of maybe someone with and someone without to kind of help coach that person.
Yes, correct.
To where they need to be.
Yes, you are absolutely right on that, Matt.
Awesome. Well, I think that about does it for this episode. Do you have any last comments or anything you wanted to say?
Not really any lasting comments, but just to say, like, it was a pleasure to speak with you. I've listened to this first episode, and it's a real eye opener. I hope people listen to this episode too. It's really just fun to listen to. And also it's not really like, I know some podcasts are kind of long and people get like just annoyed, but this one I would suggest is really worthy listening to.
Oh, thanks. I appreciate the promotion.
Yeah, no worries, Matt. As always.
It's a pleasure talking to you as well, Forrest.
Yeah,
it's always
thanks.
a pleasure to see you. And I'm glad we got to have this conversation and kind of dive deeper into this because we've been friends for a good while now.
Yeah.
And we've never actually really sat down and talked about your autism and your life with it. So it's been a good experience for me to learn. I definitely learned a few things today. I learned that I'm neurotypical.
True.
That's a new word for me.
That's a new word.
So, yeah, it was a good experience, and I hope everybody listening out there also learned something from this. And moving forward, we can all better understand autism and to help our brothers and sisters and friends and everyone else out there that suffers from this.
True. It's this one big world, and I feel like everyone's going to experience someone with autism in their days, whereas they just go about their normal life and they see someone acting weird, and it's just normal. Like, hey, he's just acting out because that's how his brain functions. That's how he can focus. That's how he can live this life. So just be conscious and be aware of it is the best thing.
I agree.
Yeah, I do.
This is the podcast where it's okay to be different.
Thanks, Matt. It's always okay to be different, guys.
All right. Thank you, guys. This has been Failure Isn't Fatal. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please subscribe. And don't forget to follow us on Instagram at fallenrise.co or check out our website for more information as well as our merchandise at www.fallenrise.us. Thanks again for joining us. Hope to see you next time.